It's Josh Johnson in 3D!
Ooh, I'm in 3D. Good popcorn. I've been traveling a bunch. I remember this is like maybe 2 trips ago to North Carolina. I stayed in this old house. It was incredibly old. This one was like Airbnb type things, but it wasn't through Airbnb. I was staying at someone's house and they were there. I was in their spare room and everything. And man, this house was old. It was old to the point where you were like, oh, this place has a history. Do you know what I mean? Anytime I don't see door knobs, anytime I see like wooden pegs and stuff, I'm like, yeah, something bad happened here. I might be the first person to sleep upstairs. This is terrible. But still, it was a place to stay, and and so I'm staying there and everything, and they gave me a little tour, told me a little bit of the history, and I was like, I'm sure you left a little out. And whenever I'm in a place like that, people talking about like ghosts and stuff, and here's the thing. I believe in ghosts as much as the average black person. Do you know what I mean? What I mean by that is that sometimes you're watching a show. You're watching a show, and then somebody's going on about ghosts, and I'm like, they didn't see a ghost. You know what I mean? Like, you could just tell from their attitude on the show. I'm like, no, they didn't see a ghost. But if you tell me there's a ghost in here, you're not gonna leave me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't believe everything everybody says, but I'm also not gonna play with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like I am a reasonable amount of superstitious. I am just superstitious enough to keep myself safe, Like I don't believe in everything, but like also I'm not gonna play with it. Like this is my thing. I got plenty of white friends, and white friends love to tell you about a ghost like they're telling you about a puppy. I'm like, well, 200 years ago. And so then I'm over here later taking a shower, right? And I do the thing sometimes, I think a lot of people do this, where if you're in a horror movie scenario, there is a part of you internally reacting to the horror movie you're in. It's almost like that little voice that you have in the back of your head that is watching the horror movie that you're in that has a little bit more sense than you're expressing in the moment. So even as I'm in this house, and against my wishes, my host had to run errands, so they've left me in the house, I'm in the house alone, and I gotta take a shower, right? In my head, I'm like, look, I'm gonna be fine. I'm just taking a shower in the place. I've already stayed here for, most of the day. Nothing weird has happened. I'm gonna take a shower, right? Now in the back of my head, the version of myself watching the movie is like, don't get in the shower! Get out of the shower, girl! What you doing? I get in the shower, and got those old pipes, everything groaning. You turn on the pipe. I had to take a shower, but I don't trust any water that doesn't show up immediately. Do you know what I mean? No, I turned the knob. I turned it. It's been turned. And now I hear, As pipes, you don't get to complain. As a fact, I turned the, and then the water comes out. That doesn't feel clean. To me, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a plumber, but to me, water on delay always seems dirty. I'm like, where were you that you couldn't show up immediately? That is so nasty to turn. to turn a knob, and I gave it revolutions. I didn't twist it like a quarter just to, test the water pressure or get the temp or anything. I turned it fully on, and nothing was happening. And the water finally comes out. I'm like, why are you late? It's very distressing. And so, turn the water on for the tub, and then I pull it so it'll come out of the shower. And that took much longer, which is crazy. Is the water already up here? Did you get lost? Why? The water's already coming out of the faucet. I pull the thing up so as we come out of the shower. And then I hear brrr, 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 brrr. And then the water starts coming out. I didn't like the sound it made. Because it's over here. What you choking on in there? You know what I mean? Look, maybe I'm wrong, but water's supposed to listen to me. And so then I get in the shower, and, it was one of those things where there's a hot and a cold, right? But there's no order. You know what I mean? There's no organization. This is chaos. This is chaos we're living in, because this thing, you turn it 1/8 of an inch. You turn it 1/8 of an inch towards the H. It looked like an H. It was faded. You turn it 1/8 of an inch towards the H, and you will receive. You will receive some of the hottest. In the Bible, they talk about fire and brimstone. And far be it from me to give any edits, but I feel like a more accurate description would be fire, brimstone, and whatever is coming out of this shower right now. I felt it for half a second. And I didn't even have time to react to how hot it was. I just knew that I was burning. And so then I turned it, because once again, I'm used to showers. Been showering my whole life. All right? You're not gonna get me, okay? Because that's what these showers do. You turn it 1/8 of an inch, and then out of a reaction, you turn it the whole way, and then you freeze, right? I was like, all right, this is clearly too hot. I have very little time, and this is also what happened, because the response time, I don't know if this is such an old house that they just have somebody choosing the water temperature. Because I had turned it the 1/8 of an inch, right? And it didn't get hot right away, so I took a step back. So I'm over here just letting it hit my feet. And then I feel my feet catch on fire. And so now I'm dancing in the tub. Ooh, it's a hot recipe to kill yourself. I am over here trying not to get hit by the water in the tub, and I know I only have a split second. Try to shoot my hand in. I know you're probably wondering, why didn't you just get out of the shower, come around underneath the water? You don't think like that in moments like this. Good for you. You've been through a lot more than I have, and so you come to these situations prepared, but I'm not expecting to be attacked in the shower. And so then I shoot my arm through and just turn it that little bit, turned it 1/4 of an inch cold. 1/4 of an inch cancels out that 1/8 of an inch of the hot, takes me back to where I was, which is like warm but not warm enough, and then I can maybe assess, maybe it's 1/4 inch this way, and then maybe maybe a quarter of an inch the other way. Maybe that'll get me back where I was, and I can do even like 1/16 maybe. Turn a quarter of an inch. And the way the icicles that shot against my body, I had already sacrificed my right arm in the hot water. So now I'm freezing, and at this point I did just get out and then try to adjust underneath the water. Throw the hand up. Finally get it perfect, right? I hop in, showering up and everything, and look, I appreciate them hosting me, but they had weird soap. Yeah, I mean, because they're those friends that make everything. So they made their own soap, and I was like, all right, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's sudsing up, but it's also like, I don't know, why is it shaped like this? Yeah, like, carve it into a rectangle or something. Just look like a collection of rocks. All glued together or something, so then it's not even like, I don't know, even as you're rubbing against your hands, you're like, this soap a little sharp. And so then suds up, I'm washing up and everything, and then I start to hear these noises, right? And this is too creaky of a house. Genuinely, I hated this house, because not only should I probably hate this house, but every step creaky. The floorboards need replacing. You open or close a door. At a certain point, I'm like, I get history and everything, but y'all, WD-40 has been invented. Y'all don't have to live like this. I don't see how y'all sleep. And so then, I'm in the shower, start hearing all these noises, and it genuinely starts freaking me out. Because then I'm like, could it be? If there was ever going to be a ghost, is here. Like, it is in this place. And so even as I'm showered, I'm like, there's probably not a ghost. But in the back of my head, like, there's a ghost! Get out the shower, there's a ghost! He on the other side of the curtain! I'd be lying if I didn't say it. This is so dumb, but I would open the curtain real quick. There are a couple times I just open the curtain real quick. Sudsing up and everything. And then I finally hear something from the room I'm staying in. That sounds like falling. It sounds like books falling or something like that. It's too loud and unorganized of a noise for it to not be something in there. And this is bad. This is the part of the horror movie where normally someone. And so now in the back of my head, myself that's watching me is like, didn't I tell you not to get in the shower? Because this is a precarious position to be in, especially as a man. As a man, you never want to be scared and wet. What do I look like? Scared and wet at the same time. The only people allowed to be scared and wet are firefighters. I'm over here in the shower, still suds, and everything I hear, huh! Can't be scared and wet. And so I decided, all right, look, I'm gonna go ahead, shut the shower off, I'm gonna dry up, and whatever it is, whatever is in that room, I'm gonna face it head on like a man, right? I'm gonna face it head on, because also there's no other room for me to go to. I literally have to, I actually have to exit the bathroom from the room that I came in. And so then I dry off a little bit. Whole time I'm still hearing clunky sounds in there, just stuff moving, like just the sound of stuff like dragging. Like, and so even as I'm drying off, I'm getting myself ready. You can only prepare yourself so much. I forgot to bring my clothes in the bathroom with me. So I'm thinking in my head, look, if it's a person, I have a chance. Because a naked man is also a threat. I don't care where you are. You run in naked, you own that room. It could be the Oval Office. You run in the Oval Office naked, everybody, even Secret Service, like, oh! And so, go ahead and dry myself off. I wrap a towel around my waist and everything. I grab the metal. They didn't have a doorknob. I grab the metal little latch and take a deep breath. I unlatch it. I run out. Nothing. There's nothing in there except a very fat cat. This is one of the bigger cats I've seen. This cat was thick. This cat been living good. This is a very big cat. This is one of those cats that didn't even look like he wanted to be big, you know? Like, oh. Cat just looked exhausted. Looked like he'd been eating all day. Eating ghosts. This cat is truly one of the biggest cats I've ever seen. Cat looking at me. Then I'm like, all right, get out of here. You gotta go. You done scared me and everything. They didn't even tell me they had a cat. And so, and honestly, when you expect to see nothing and you see a huge cat, you aren't sure what it is right away. No. What I got was a cat. When I opened that door and saw that cat was so rude. That cat was on his back, perched up against the dresser by the head and the top of the back. Legs open. The cat laying there like a drunk. You know, cat leaves the room. I get dressed and everything. Later on, we're having dinner. And I just told them, I was like, hey, y'all gotta chill with the ghost stories and stuff, because they were about to tell another one. I was like, y'all stop, come on. And then I told them about what happened. I was like, I'm over here paranoid. That stuff, like, it stresses me out. I don't end up having good sleep and everything. Like, don't tell me about stuff like that. I was trying to take a shower, and then your cat scared me half to death. And they were like, cat? And I was like, stop playing. I can't stay here. If you don't have an obese cat, I cannot stay here right now. I can't be here. Oh. Got Easter coming up. And Easter's always a fun time because I have so many memories from when I was little and Easter would come around. Like, okay, when I was a kid, all of my friends, went to different churches and stuff, but like Easter Sunday's like one of the big ones. That's like when you go if you don't go. Yeah, I mean, it's like Christmas, Easter, that's when you show up to be like, oh, it's good to see you again, Pastor. Oh, yeah, been busy. But it was a kid, okay. It was a kid, Sean, that was a bully at church. It's hard to have a church bully. Yeah, but it's hard to have be going to Sunday school and then there's this kid that's over here bullying everybody, and then you hear about how the Lord sees everything. And you're like, he can't cast Sean? Like, every week I'm over here. You know, and Sean was like, he was a little bit bigger than everybody, but he wasn't like a big, strong bully. He was just like, he had the bully attitude. Like, he would just walk up and try to take something from you, like you owed it to him, you know? And there was this one Easter Sunday, he was walking up to everybody because everybody got like little chocolate bunnies, little chocolate treats and everything. And he didn't do anything when it was being passed out, but later, throughout the rest of church, whether he was in the bathroom or he was walking by you, he'd just walk up to you and be like, give me your chocolate. And I imagine you would give him the chocolate, not just because you were scared of him, but you'd be like, what was that just now? Like, that wasn't, yeah, because it was intimidating, because it was weird. It wasn't like a straw. Like, he didn't say it with a deep voice, give me your chocolate. He was like, give me your chocolate. I'll give it to you just to stop you from doing that again. And he did it to everybody. Like, it didn't matter who you were. Like, boys, girls, walk up, give me your chocolate. Just taking everybody's chocolate and just eating it right away. Eating it in front of them, too, because that's the type of bully he was. He would take your chocolate, eat it in front of you, and then when he got done, be like, chocolate. Like, it was hard to accept his bully because it was just so, it would leave you asking questions. Do you not know you just had the chocolate? You said, give me the chocolate, you ate the chocolate, and then you said, chocolate. Do you narrate every part of your life? Sean likes chocolates. And so he did this I don't know how he got to everybody, but he took near everybody's chocolate, right? Almost everybody. To the point where this one boy had eaten like 54 pieces of chocolate. And so then it was time for communion. And everybody's lined up, you know, take the body, take the blood and everything. And you could tell something was wrong with Sean from afar. He was bubbling, you know. He's over here, chocolate. And then he got up there, took a little piece of the bread, took part of the blood, and immediately, and not just a little bit either. Not like 54 pieces. He seemed to throw up for 12 days. This child, Here's the thing. When you're little and something like that happens, the panic sets in, and then the thing happens, and the thing is over before you know it. This wasn't. His mom had time to pick him up and run him down the aisle with him. Whole time trying to talk to. And then after that, a rumor spread. A rumor spread about Sean that he was a demon. What do you expect us to think? As soon as he took the blood, the blood of Christ couldn't last 2 seconds inside him. And he threw up way more than he ate chocolate. That's some exorcism right there. Who knows? Maybe he was a demon and now it's out, but just... No, that's crazy. He was a child. Threw up like a drunk man. Oh, a ton of memories around Easter. Like, I have a friend. His mom was trying to be more handy around the house, right? So she's over here trying to do some of the stuff that his dad would normally do, because his dad would travel sometimes. And she's like, I'm sick of waiting for you to get back to fix stuff. I'm going to learn to fix some of this stuff myself, because then you never want me to call anybody and have them come do it. You want to do it yourself, but then you out of town for like 2-3 days. I want to learn how to fix stuff up, be handy around the house. And so one of the things that she wanted to do was install AC window unit, right? And the problem with how she installed it is it's how I would have installed it. Like, basically, she had it in the window, right? It's already heavy, and you got to close the window, and then it has those edges where you're supposed to screw into the windowsill, right? Now, some windowsills, especially if they have that like curved molding to them, they don't screw in as well, so then you have to come up with something else. You have to either screw in down to the top of the window that you push down, or right into the bottom of the window. And she didn't do any of that, so she didn't do any of those things at all. Basically, she closed the window extra hard and wedged a brick right under. She wedged the brick right here. Yeah, plugged it in, nice and cool. Nice and cool in the house. And because she had done it herself and she was all proud of it, you know, his dad came home and he didn't even really want to say anything. He's like, it's in there, you know. And there really is no place to screw in. These are short screws, and there's like a certain molding to the windowsill. So yeah, I guess that's that. And it lasted like that for a very long time, like through the seasons as well. Like it stayed in there for like a year, just like that, no problem, right? And then there was one Easter where the Easter Bunny was coming. The Easter Bunny was coming. This is a big deal. This is crazy. Who knew? As a child, who knew you could see the Easter Bunny? Because you don't really know the breakdown of who you're allowed to see versus not see. Like, you're never supposed to see the Tooth Fairy. You never see the Tooth Fairy at all. You're allowed to see Santa, but only at the mall, not in your house. If you see Santa at your house where he's supposed to come, things have gone terribly awry. If you see Santa at your home, he might not even give you your presents for some reason. You're supposed to stay asleep in bed. But if you see Santa, he'll be like, oh, you remember me from the mall. I can't give you your presents now. Those are the rules. I don't know why. But the Easter Bunny was coming. All the kids are so excited. Like, yeah, hooray. I'm gonna meet the Easter Bunny. This is going to be great. I wonder what he's like. Easter Bunny comes. Easter Bunny rings the doorbell. All the kids are excited because they told all the children, hey, you're meeting the Easter Bunny today. And especially, it makes sense. Easter Bunny, bright, nice colors, everything. You do the Easter egg hunt and everything. It makes sense it'd be daytime. I feel like if you run into the Easter Bunny at night, you have problems. This is a very different bunny. It's a very different season. Easter Bunny comes. Easter Bunny at the door rings the bell. His dad opens the door, and the Easter Bunny is bent over, holding his like bunny head with like red stuff all down his shoulder. Because the AC unit had fallen on the Easter Bunny. That window unit almost took the Easter Bunny out. managed to make it to the front door at the... Basically what saved him is the top of his head was such a strong shell that it sort of broke most of the fall. And what actually happened was that in like that shell providing that cushion, he'd still got a little bit of a cut on his head, had to get stitched up. So immediately they opened the door, Easter Bunny over here bleeding. The children are screaming. You never want to see one of your childhood heroes covered in blood. And you don't even really understand the blood. You just know that like one eye looking this way and the other eye looking over here, and the head's a little caved in and there's blood on the shoulder. And you never heard the Easter Bunny speak, but you hear, oh, no, oh. And so, of course, you're terrified, and you're just crying and everything. All the kids got herded to another room. They ran him in, stitched him up. Turns out it wasn't that serious, just like literally like cut right there. Stitched him on up. And parents being parents, you know, you want to give your kids the best. You want to, especially, you have a plan for how life is going to go. So then when it goes wrong, you want to make up for it even more. And people bend over backwards for their kids in ways that don't even sometimes make sense. You know? And that's why after stitching them up, they brought them back out to the kids to show that the Easter Bunny was all good. And the Easter Bunny himself is over here trying to like still put on a performance. This is the problem with the Easter Bunny. Nobody really knows what he's supposed to do. So Easter Bunny come out, same costume, same busted head, same blood on his shoulder, but now he over here. It's Easter, y'all. Like, how is the Easter Bunny supposed to dance? Like, at least when somebody dresses up as Spider-Man, you know Spider-Man moves. Like, if somebody's in Spider-Man for somebody's birthday, they can be like, here, right? Easter Bunny's just over here like, probably a little concussed, just a touch concussed. So some of these dance moves are a little involuntary. It's over here getting low for no reason. Easter Bunny tried his best, trying to calm these children down. Still see blood on the shoulder. Trying to dance and be jolly, but you hot in there. And you might be concussed, who knows? It's hard to have fun with a concussed Easter Bunny because he over here leaning on everybody. You go to hug the Easter Bunny and he hugging you, but he like really giving you his weight a little bit. Like, now you 8 years old holding up the Easter Bunny like, hey, my back. We do our best though. We do, because we thought, you know, we were positive that the Easter Bunny was dead. Like, we were sure. So when we saw him again, we were like, it's like, wow! That's real Easter right there. No, it's bad. Crime is out of control. I don't know if you saw what's been going on in Europe, but 400,000 KitKat bars were stolen. When I first saw it, I was like, it's gotta be a joke. And then after the third news station covered it, I was like, I think this is real. This is a crazy heist because, okay, basically there was a truckload of these new special edition KitKats. These were KitKats specifically for right now because apparently this is, I don't even know if this is true, but I've heard enough times that I feel like it's safe to repeat. Apparently, more chocolate gets sold during like the Easter season than even Halloween. Yeah, because Halloween's all the candy. So you might think of like Hershey's Kisses, stuff like that, but Easter is when the chocolate really comes out. And KitKat had made these special edition chocolate bars be sold everywhere throughout Europe. And somebody sat down, came up with a plan. They heard about this delicious endeavor, and they were like, you know what? I gotta get in on this. It's all gonna be on one truck. This is one of the wildest oceans, 14 plots. Because you would think, when you talk about robbing a truck, especially like a semi-truck or something, when you think about robbing a truck, you think about it in like a Sons of Anarchy, you know, those that like Breaking Bad era of A&E shows. Where there's somebody who's like in the truck the whole time, buried under a bunch of KitKats, and then they climb out and they got their Glock with them, and then the other guys pull up Fast and Furious style on either side of the semi-truck, and they have shotguns, and then they get on top of the car. You know, there's always that scene where somebody needs to get on top of the car, moving for some reason. Like you can shoot better when you're standing on top of a moving car. They climb out of the window, and then you see them. And they shoot at the driver, but then the driver's got his own shotgun because it's not his first rodeo. He's over here, pow! Another person has to climb under the semi. You know, they have to do that thing where they get close. It's a sports car, so it sits lower. They can get under, hop out, climb under. Climb open the back. KitKats start flying all over. They're like, no! Trying to catch KitKats is just slipping through their fingers, but also hold on to the door. Somebody finally gets to the driver, puts the gun right in their face. Pull over. Pulls over. They knock him over the head, tie him up, leave him on the side of the road, drive off. With the KitKats. That didn't happen this time. No, none of that happened. They didn't even have guns. This was Europe. No, this was Europe, so they came up with a real plan. The heist was crazy because basically it was a dude driving the truck, and apparently there's like a real problem. I'm trying to remember what the name of the term is. It's like shadow shipping or something like that. And basically what they do is they follow the logistics of all of these of all these products moving, right? And they come up with where they should intercept it, where it's the most believable. And then they show up with fake paperwork, fake phone numbers for people to call to check out said fake paperwork. And then they take control of the truck, because in these businesses, these people are taught to like hand over the keys to the next person who's at the next stop and everything. And so they basically intercepted it, drove off with the KitKat truck. And then the guy who had the KitKat truck has to go back and be like, look, listen to me, all right? He had a clipboard and everything. How was I supposed to know? He had a clipboard, he had on the right vest, you know, the reflective vest, he had on one of those even though it was daytime. But no, he took off, and now nobody knows where those bars are. And then KitKat comes out and makes a statement about the whole thing. And the statement was a bit lackluster. It was like, well, at least the thieves have good taste. What are you talking about? What are you doing right now? This is what happens when you let weed be legal all across the continent. What? At least the thieves have good taste. Oh. And then they did something that most companies don't do. Usually when this sort of thing happens, they take it on the chin and then they just try to make up the shipment and everything, and they keep it to themselves because they're worried that the publicity from it happening might lead to it happening more. You know that this company is vulnerable because not only did KitKat come out and say, look, a lot of people would keep this to themselves, but we're KitKat. All right, we don't play by the same rules as these other bars, okay? All right, you're not talking to a Hershey milk chocolate bar right now. You're not talking to 100 grand. You're not talking to a zero bar. You're definitely not talking to a payday. All right, we're KitKat. All right, not Twix. And we're willing to say it, willing to come out and say it right now. As KitKat, we got robbed. They stole a whole truck. And so we will be not only making an announcement that we got robbed, we'll be flagging the batch numbers on the back of these boxes, because there are numbers on the backs of the boxes for the batch that they're in. And if they get flagged as sold, they'll see where these boxes ended up. They'll be able to trace it back maybe to the robbers. But if the robbers are smart and they sell a few boxes to convenience stores here and there all over Europe during this Easter season, they'll never be caught because those stores don't, really go by the batch numbers. And so they were like, we're gonna be looking out for the batch numbers in case it comes up, which honestly only helps them sell more KitKats, because now people are like, I wonder if I got a stolen KitKat. I don't know, this was extra delicious. It seems naughty. Like I'm not supposed to have it or something. Check the batch number, check it. It was kind of like the opposite of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, yeah. When I saw this, when I saw the story, I was like, huh, Sean? No, I can see him messing up the whole plan, like just walking up with the clipboard and everything, like we're ready to take over the shipment for you and everything, but instead of just sounding professional, it's like, give me your chocolate.
San Francisco, California, please make some noise for Josh Johnson!
I've been having trouble. I can't stop thinking about how we've gone from this like 36-hour news cycle that we were kind of in last year to now this sort of 12-hour, maybe even 6-hour news cycle that we're in now. It's just everything bombards you all the time, and there's no time to take in a story as it's happening. As soon as a story happens, there's another thing to replace it that's the big deal for this 20 minutes, And it's hard to even vet stories now. Like, there'll be a story that seems like a big deal, but the more you think about it, the more you're like, why'd you tell me that? But it'll be big news for a second, and then it'll be like, oh, but then that was just wasting my time, okay? Like, I don't know if you saw, but apparently after all this time, they've nailed it down. They've solved it. Apparently, we got Jack the Ripper. Some would say a little late. Some would definitely say that all the women alive now are worried about the men alive now. But at least we got Jack the Ripper, you know? He eluded us for a while, but he couldn't hide forever. Apparently, some guy claims he nailed it down with some DNA, and after I finished reading it, I was like, yep. Think he got away with it. Because that's the thing, it's like you're inundated with so many different notifications, so many different news stories going down the line. You can't even enjoy the little things that aren't even quite news, but like, remember when a video would be viral for like a whole day? And we'd all share it for like a day. We at least used to have a day. And now there's so much news, you don't get to enjoy anything for like a full day. And not everybody even sees the thing that's dope. Like, this is just me personally, but I've very much been enjoying how terribly these Dove releases have been going at funerals. In case you're not familiar, there are some funerals where everybody can't get like a 21-gun salute or anything like that. So they'll do something special, whether the funeral director suggests it or the family wants it, and they'll have these doves. And it depends on how they want to do it for the funeral, right? Some people say some sweet words and they release one dove at a time. Some people say some sort of message. They give a eulogy either at the cemetery or at another special place to the person that passed, and then they release all the doves at one time. But one thing that's been happening consistently is they will stand people in a line and give them the cue to release the dove. And when you see a dove release, it does make you feel something. It's like a powerful thing. I understand why it's such a symbol for people. But the last few videos I've seen, the doves do just sort of die rather than fly away. There's one video that is truly spectacular. It is art to the point where I worried it was a sketch. There's 3 family members standing in a row, and this first one's cute to throw the dove up, and she even bends her knees a little bit, really give it some oomph, and the dove bounces off her hands and then bounces off the ground. As she snaps back, she's like, ooh, I hope that's not an omen. And then the second person releases their dove, and that dove flies off beautifully. And you're like, okay, not so bad. And then the third person goes to release his dove, and I think he knew his was dead. If anything, I feel like he pitched that one. He was trying to like, if I can toss it high enough, maybe it'll wake. There was another funeral where they were doing dove releases, and they had like 5 people lined up, and they were doing a different like stanza to this poem, and at every break in the stanza they released one of the doves and stuff, and they were getting close to the end. So this I don't know if this woman was number 5 or number 4, but she was whispering at the funeral director the entire time, "He dead." And the funeral director's like, what? Hand me another one, he dead. And the funeral director's like, that's all I brought. So, what do you mean that's all you brought? He clearly dead. She's like, funeral director looking at him, trying not to interrupt the beautiful poem that's being read, and he's like, no, he's asleep. He's asleep, he'll wake up, just throw him, he'll wake up. You throw him, he'll wake up. And they released the second picture, and the third picture is right here, and she's like, this is a dead bird in my hand. Don't play with me. Find another bird. And he's like, I swear it's asleep, just throw it. And then the third person throws theirs up, and then they read the poem, and the woman's standing there like, You could tell they get the like last couple lines of the poem, and this woman holding this bird goes. She just tried to like waste bird up, and then they end the poem. Everybody looking at her, and the field director like. And then sure enough, she go to, and the bird just plopped down. And she was looking at the field director daggers like, this your boy? And then the fifth person, their dove fly off, no problem. So everybody got a good dove, except for her. I felt for her. One thing I don't know if everybody thinks about when it comes to those dove releases is where they go. What's next? I don't know anything about this, so I don't know if the dove returns and they just know to go to the funeral director's house or something. I'm assuming they start a new life. Like, I'm assuming the dove gets thrown in the air. It was like, what a beautiful ceremony. I didn't know him, but y'all sent him off right. And then they fly off and try to get things going themselves. I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like to be like a released dove at a Bronx funeral. You're a released dove at a Bronx funeral. And then you land on some roof somewhere. You're like, all right, I guess I gotta get my bearings. And then a pigeon land right behind you, just, what's up, sweet thing? Pigeon just seemed like a very rub the belly bird, It's like, how you doing, huh? Man, you looking fine as hell. No spots or nothing. Hey, you must be new to the city. Let me show you around. I know where the good spots are. That's the world we're in now, Nothing but news stories, non-stop. Everything's coming at you. We've gone from this 36-hour news cycle to the 12-hour, 6-hour, 4-hour on a really bad day. And you cannot care about everything. You can't, you want to have empathy, and especially when something's big, you want to care about it for as much attention as you feel like it deserves. But then another thing happens, and you're just daisy-chained bad news all the time, or what's supposed to be important news all the time. And so sometimes things fall out of your head because you're like, I can't focus on everything at once, and some things I can't do anything about. And so after a while, you haven't heard about something long enough, you just assume it's been resolved if nobody's talking about it. But nobody's talking about it because there's so many things to talk about. And you also have to measure up how you feel about the world right now with the fact that everyone trying to give you news about the world also wants your money. They want a subscription from you. So they're just inundating you with all this stuff because maybe you'll like news from us. So we'll just keep sending you notifications. Because there's always a lot happening in the world. That's not different. The fact that we have access to it is different. I was thinking about all of this last week. I was just sitting there and thinking to myself, dang, we never did get those astronauts down. What's the plan? That was a while ago. We should probably do something about that. And look, it's not like I can do something about it. I care, but I can't help. It's not like when your loudest, dumbest friend is in a bar fight, and they're over there talking trash, or you're like, he over there though. I would never be able to get there in time. There's nothing I could possibly do. He's kind of on his own, which is a shame. I wish I could help, but he's all the way over there, and that other guy is very big, and no one was talking to me. So, in case you don't know, case you missed it, which is understandable. There were 2 astronauts that went up, Butch and Sonny, and they went up to the International Space Station, and they were the first to, I believe, man this Boeing Starliner. So they went up in this Boeing Starliner, which some would say was a mistake. Because I don't know how many news stories you consumed last year, but Boeing was not having a fantastic year. And Boeing has different divisions, by the way. It's not all one thing. It's one company, but it's not all one thing. Everybody's not working on everything at the same time. So the plane people and the space people aren't necessarily the same, but by and large, as a company, wasn't looking good. You know? And so they went up to the International Space Station with this Boeing Starliner. And I'm not going to act like I understand or know how to do what astronauts do. I don't get it, and I'm glad that they do. Because astronauts, NASA, all of these experiments that they do in space have yielded incredible things for us down here on Earth that you wouldn't necessarily even connect to space. You know, like memory foam, inner ear thermometer, all the times that they've had to solve a problem up there, it's led to us having something dope down here. So keep going to space. I think that that's great. I don't know what you do up there, but all I know is it makes my life better, and I appreciate it. You know, because everything I know about working in space, I know from the movies. And whenever I see it in the movie, it's just the astronaut outside of the ship with a wrench. Every time I see it, it's Sandra Bullock or Bruce Willis outside the ship, just... I don't know what it is about space that makes screws so loose, but like, I genuinely assumed that a quarter of being an astronaut was just tightening. I don't know why space is so loose, but it's just you gotta keep it tight all the time. And so they send them up there, and this Boeing Starliner had a bunch of other problems. It had a bunch of other issues on the sort of unmanned tests that they were doing, you know. And so it's very brave of them to even go up there and be doing these experiments and try and make a better world for us, you know. They get up there, and they're supposed to be up there for like 8 days, right? And I don't know if they caught it or it got caught down here, but there were a bunch of problems with the Boeing Starliner. Some of them were helium leaks, because helium is incredibly hard to just capture, just keep it so light, and it's very easy to escape. And then they were worried about the thrusters, and so they were worried about control issues if they were to come down, right? Because Boeing used to be a better company. Boeing used to be a company that put engineers and innovation first. And then they had a bit of a merger, and that merger started to prioritize shareholders, prioritize the money. And so some of that innovation, some of those engineers started to fall to the wayside, and you have what we get now: planes that make you a little nervous and ships that only go one way. Because, make no mistake, Butch and Sonny are fine in the sense that they are the most seasoned astronauts that we have. You know, Sonny has logged potentially more hours than I think anybody should. 322 days in space, and she has logged like 50 hours of spacewalking and everything. She's like a true veteran, and even before that, she was a diver in the Navy, and she piloted combat helicopters. Like, she knows what she's doing. And Butch is the same way. Butch had already been on missions before this, and to be fair, this was going to potentially be one of their last missions. And so for them to go up in space for those 8 days, them getting some extra days, maybe they don't mind. I just am trying to not project how I would feel. Because if it were me, because once again, I'm not an astronaut. I can never be an astronaut. Not good enough at math, throw up too easy. So I don't give off astronaut, right? But if it had been me, if I had gone up into space, it was supposed to be 8 days, and then they were like, ooh, that ship, may not be able to send you back down in that ship, I would be like, oh, okay, cool. So when's the next ship coming up? And so some of this is being explained to me by my friend, so forgive me if I'm like a bit incorrect, but he's saying that not only are they good because of how seasoned they are and how much they genuinely love being in space, but also because they have these like pods and stuff and different things they can send up to give them supplies, give them food and everything, give them things to continue their experiments, more wrenches. I don't know what it is, but like they can send stuff up. And so in my head, I was like, oh, okay, all right. Like if you can send stuff up, like you can send a pod up or whatever, then why don't they just, like why don't they just hop in the pod when all the food, like after they get all the food out and they eat the food, oh, delicious, and then they get in, they could get in the pod, right? And then take the pod down. He's like, no, it doesn't actually work like that. You know, it's not a manable ship and it's too small and everything. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Why don't they make a bigger pod? You know, enough to like fit people with just some seats, just for fun, just some seats. And then they send that up, and they could even put like an Xbox controller in it, just to have something, you know? And then send them down with that. And he's like, Josh, it doesn't work like that. Like, everything you're saying doesn't make any sense. And I was like, okay, I understand that everything I'm saying doesn't make sense, but the way it does work is also sound like it doesn't make sense. To me. Just to me. All right? I'm not Butch and Sonny, and I'm not going to speak for them. I'm talking about if I was in space for too long, if it was me, which it will never be. It's not going to happen. I would pass out. So this isn't even a problem that we really have to discuss. I just couldn't get it out of my head. Because in my head, it's like to send me something, but not let me come back down in the thing you sent me would be like if I was stranded. Imagine, stranded on Earth. Let's say I'm just stranded on Earth somewhere, and you're worried about me, and you're worried about me having supplies, having food and everything. So you send me an Uber Eats. But then you go, no, don't get in the car. Don't get in the car. That's not how this works. This is not a car. This is a burrito car. See, you don't understand rocket science. This is a burrito car. You just try to get in any kind of car you want. That doesn't make sense. Stay there till we come get you with a car. Oh, it's tough. It really is. Because if you read articles and if you listen to interviews with Butch and Sonny, they're not just in great spirits. They, if they're to tell it, are getting all this extra time in space. Space is their passion. It's their happy place. And so it's somewhere where they can go that is unlike where any of us can go. They see a perspective of the Earth that most people will never get in person. That's beautiful. And the expanses that they get to wake up to, that's incredible, you know? And so if this really was going to be one of their last missions and it lasts all this extra time, there is something to be said for like, wow, I really got to spend a surprising amount of time in space. And I hope they feel that way. I really do. I just know if it was me, I would also be putting a good face on. So that way, everybody's working real hard to bring me down, and I can whoop some ass. That would be... Because you know how when you're on the phone with like customer service or something, you got to be extra nice, even though you get madder and madder and madder. Because if you start cursing, they're like, every time you swear at me, my computer seems to jam up. I don't know how the two are related, but they definitely are. May want to fix your attitude. No, I'm playing as nice as possible until I get down. And best believe when I get down, we're having it out. And I'm not even like a bad man like that. I can't even fight, but I tell you, I'm biting the first person I see. I cannot swing, but best believe I will catch a mouthful of your chin, all right? You leave me up there all this time? What's wrong with you? You must be out of your mind. You got me. Because look, I believe it. I believe that they love being in space, but everybody has a bad day. And I think a bad day in space is an extra bad day. Let's say you wake up, and it's just one of those days. You wake up wrong side of the pod. You know, very upset. And all you want to do is brush your teeth and maybe go read a book or something. You know? But you take your eyes off your toothbrush for 1 second. And now all of a sudden you... grab the toothpaste. Oh. Or maybe, you know, you got your coworkers up there. Butch and Sonny, I'm sure they get along, but there's other people in the space station that can leave. And so I'm sure, you know, you have your disagreements with your coworkers. We all have it. We all have it. You want to storm off. It's very difficult in space. You want to storm off, but it just doesn't hit the same. Because when you storm off, you want everything to be perfect. You want to be loud as you storm off, boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? You want the feet to be slamming. If you slam a door, you want it to really shake after it slams and everything. You don't get any of that in space. I remember one time I was trying to storm off. I felt like I was in the right, and I was done. I was really angry, and I tried to storm off. But I had a small hole in my shoe, and it had rained the day before. And so I was squeaking as I walked off. And that's a hard thing to come back from, because I had the storming off words ready. I was like, this discussion is over. So sure enough, you know, you want to storm off in space. Maybe your coworker's making you mad. And you've had enough of it. You've been up here for, 2 extra months or whatever. You just want to go. So you're like, all right, that's how you feel. That's how you feel? All right, then you know what? You can finish the experiment yourself, because I'm out of here. I'm trying to leave. I can empathize with where the astronauts are coming from, because I worked at a grocery store, right? And give me a second. That is wild. In the time I'm talking, I haven't built up enough trust that there's a point that I'm trying to... Y'all are rude. That's wild. Okay. Anyway. I used to work at a grocery store. And I worked at this grocery store, and one of the reasons I wanted the job and one of the reasons I got the job is because my apartment was only going to be 1 mile from my home store. So I could walk to work, and if I was late, could run, right? And then sure enough, when you get hired by this particular company, when you work for the company, you don't work just for that one store. You work for the district. And so what they can do is they can put you in different stores if they need to patch up. Maybe somebody quit and they need to patch up some shifts or something like that. And so when I first get hired, I'm willing to go wherever. And I'm only at my home store, but I'm taking up people's shifts. If anybody needs to switch with me or needs me to take their shift, I'm taking it if I can. I'm coming in every time they call me in because somebody called out. I'm actually coming in so much that I get a bunch of overtime, then they get mad at me and tell me to stop. But I was like, you called me. So I'm sorry I didn't self-snitch on the way in that this was hour 48 this week. Like, thought you needed help. And then one day, I get put on a different store, a store that's really far from my apartment. And it was because someone had quit abruptly, and so they needed someone there that week. So it was only supposed to be that week. And I get there. I had never been to this store before, but it's in a remarkably unfortunate, it is in a bad neighborhood, okay? And I don't mean bad neighborhoods in like they have crime sometimes. I'm talking about fundamentally everything about this place felt like the worst version of the Twilight Zone. This is the only place I've ever seen on 3 different occasions a rat walk out of the trap. And Tom and Jerry style, like really starting his day, yawning and everything, stretching his legs and stuff, going about his day. And it was one of the big industrial traps. I don't even know what's in those things, but it's supposed to kill rats. And that's where he was chilling. So these are grizzled veteran rats. And I go in the store first day, I'm ringing people up and everything. And this one person comes to my line. She only had one item. I scan her protein bar. She pays me. And as she's paying and she's putting the cash in my hand, she leans in a little bit, which was odd. That's not something that you normally do. And then when I'm handing her change, she says, "Thank you. There's a poop in aisle 5." And then walks out. And I'm sure she didn't do it. I'm sure she didn't do it. But the way she walked out so quickly, I was like, do you have something to do with this? And so it's not really my problem. I'm hoping she was just joking. And so I just keep ringing people up, right? I'm just continuing to ring people up. And then my manager comes over, and my manager is like, "Hey, Josh, we gonna switch you off a register and put you on the floor for a little bit. Because, there's so many crazy things happening today. And so I'll go ahead and switch with you." And so then I had to count out my till and then go to the floor. Now, I'm still not electing myself to go to aisle 5, right? I went straight back to the back room to grab some chips that were out in front. And so I grabbed the box and I'm opening the box and, starting to stock the chips. And I hear a scream. And so I'm like, okay, it must be real. I just hear someone go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." And so then I just keep stocking because I'm like, I don't want that to be part of my life, right? And then I get a tap on the shoulder, and it's my manager. She's like, "Hey, there's a whole situation on aisle 5. If you don't mind checking it out real quick." And in my head, I'm like, I thought you were gonna be ringing people up. You just been trying to set me up this whole time, using some very convenient language. And so I walk over to aisle 5, and I see it, right? And the only thing on aisle 5, on the way to aisle 5, by the way, I passed 2 people who were running away from aisle 5. Like fully bumped me out of the way. Just like, huh, huh, huh. You know, like when you're in a zombie movie and everybody's running in one direction, but you got the shotgun, so you got to head towards the zombies. And so then I turn the corner, I see it, and the only thing on aisle 5 is it and one guy, and that one guy is looking at it, and then he looks at me and goes, I didn't do it. Didn't think you did, dog. Like, I understand you being just as shocked as I am. And so then I go to the back because I don't really know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, this has been laid at my feet and I don't feel prepared. And so I grab the broom and the dustpan and the kitty litter. And so that I go ahead and like scoop and litter and everything. And that was day one. That was the first day that I worked at that store. The second day, this older lady walked up to me at the register. I started ringing her up and everything, and she was hitting on me hard. And she was hitting on me in the way that older people can hit on you because they're not saying anything vulgar, but they're being very vulgar at the same time. They're not using the words, but you can tell the intent is there. And so she walked up and she was like, hi, young man. And I was like, that's the wildest I've ever been called young man in my life, because she really hit that hard A with the man. It lasted forever. She's like, how you doing, young man? And I'm sitting there like, the name tag says Josh. Like it. And so I'm ringing her up and she's like, what you doing later? And I was like, work. I'm just ringing things up as fast as I can. And then she's like, can you bag it for me? I was like, sure. So I'm putting it in the bag. She looks at me and she's like, I like the way you do it. And I'm like, you can see what I'm saying. Like, this is X-rated, what she's doing to me right now. But it's all under the radar. It's all, if you try to call her out for this right now, she'd be like, I'm not doing anything. But like, we can all hear it together right now. Like, I like the way you do it. I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks so much. Meanwhile, I'm just ringing up can after can of prunes. It's just nothing but prunes. It's like the store's worth of prunes. In my head, I'm like, there's no way she's gonna be able to carry all this. I put the last one in the bag. And she was like, I'll see you when I come back. And I've never felt more undressed in my life. It was day 2. And day 3, I was ringing somebody up. My manager walks up and they're like, hey, just so you know, watch that guy over there. You know, turn your head, watch that guy. And she pointed to this dude and she was like, look, we forgot to mention this, but he does come in here periodically. And you just need to watch him because he will eventually start arguing with the cantaloupes. And I always try to be respectful of my bosses and stuff, but I did turn to her like, what am I supposed to do about that? Break it up? Like, what do you expect? Why you even tell me this information? We have a security guard, right? And so I'm bringing people up, and like 5 customers later, I hear in the distance,
Don't talk to me like that.
and so immediately I turn my head to our security guard. Our security guard, all I see is his back foot walking out of the store. Because we always had security guards on hand because it's a bad neighborhood and everything, but at the same time, they were allowed to take their break whenever they wanted. So then I think he saw the cantaloupe argument breaking out. He was like, that sounds like a great time to have a snack. I'm hearing a snack right now. And so then my manager comes over and she's like, we should go say something. And so we walk over, and this dude's holding this cantaloupe, and letting the cantaloupe have it. And he's like, you always do this. And so I'm like, hey, sir, how you doing? Hello? Hi. And he's not listening to me at all because this is the point in the argument where he got his receipts ready. He's like, no, because last time you said, he's like making all of his really good points and he doesn't want to be interrupted. Right? I was like, hey, could you just keep it down a little bit? You're scaring some of the other customers, right? And this guy was like, oh, I'm sorry. Which I could not have seen coming. This guy goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to get loud. It just, you know how it is. I was like, yeah, no, I know. Yeah, cool. I'll go back to ringing people up, and then like several customers later, maybe 10 customers later, I see this dude in my line. And I start ringing up this one customer slow because I was like, maybe someone else will finish in time for him to get in another line. I do not want to have a conversation with this dude. And as I'm ringing them up, this guy's holding the cantaloupe and he goes, don't start again. Don't start again. And right as I look up, he's like, you know what? We're through. And he slammed the cantaloupe down. And I know he was arguing with a cantaloupe. But in that moment, I was like, oh! This dude storms out of the store and everything. And I gotta clean the cantaloupe up. And as I'm cleaning up, I'm like, I'm sorry he hurt you. And that was just 3 days working there. 3 days working there. And I was supposed to be there for a week. And they ended up having me there for 6 months. So when I tell you I can empathize with what the astronauts are going through, like some of y'all should be clapping because you didn't believe in me at all. Like some of y'all, as soon as I spoke, you're like, he thinks he's an astronaut. Because even if you love space, even if you love being up there and that's your happy place and everything, which I totally get and I hope that that's the case. I'm sure if you went up there and they told you it was going to be 8 days, that you probably had plans. It was June of 2024. I'm sure you wanted to do something else before the end of the year besides float. I'm sure they would love to. I'm going to go out on limb and say it, probably vote in person. That probably would have been great. And now they're up there. And I even saw an article that said that they had initially said it was going to be February of 2025 when they were able to get them down. They told them that in September. And then it got pushed a little bit more, so to like March of 2025. And then I just saw an article that said that there have been some developments and they may actually be able to go up there and get them early. If it were me, I'd be like, don't say early around me. Don't say early around me at all. Because Butch and Sonny are up there and they're going to be returning to a very different Earth. which might be why they so cool with being left up there. That might be it. They're probably like, nah, I'm good. I'm chilling. Don't worry about me.
Give it up for Josh Johnson.
This weekend, wow, it is for everybody. I imagine this weekend was weird. It was weird because for like half a day, we did think half a day. That's so long. Half of a day. It's a very long time to think the president. And then, we found out, oh, it wasn't the case. And they posted, the news reports came out. They were like, the president's been found golfing in Virginia. It's like, don't say found like that. Found. Like a lost senior. Found. It's insane. Just say he was golfing in Virginia. Found in Virginia? It makes it sound like the White House didn't know. I'm pretty sure they drove him. Found. 12 hours is too long to think somebody's dead. My buddy lives with his grandpa. And every time he thinks his grandpa's dead, he finds out in about 5 minutes. His granddad does that sleep you only do when you old. You know that sleep where you like... I don't know why, but like it seems like after 70, people just sleep with a little bit too much neck. You know what I mean? Like, his granddad can't just go to sleep. He always hit the... Like, that's a very dead way to lay. That's how Talia died at the end of Dark Knight Rises. She's like... The neck crank is a surefire way for somebody to put a spoon in front of your nose to see if you're still kicking. He does it a lot, apparently, because his granddaddy sleeps pretty deep. And there's that whole thing about sleep being the cousin of death, and I think it's his granddaddy's half-brother, because... Not even a snore, not even a... You know what I mean? He said he always thinks his grandpa gone when he take a nap because the way he falls asleep, which, to be fair to my friend, this is... I've never seen this in anyone else in my entire life. But he said his granddad will go take a nap. He'll announce it, too. Like, I lay down. And then he goes to lay down, whether it's on the couch or it's in his room, and lays his head back. And he said the way his granddaddy falls asleep is he takes a deep breath. That's a great way to look dead. This man goes to take a nap, lays on the couch and goes, Now, to be fair to his granddaddy, every time he wakes up, he does finish the breath. Said his granddaddy never wake up peaceful. He always wake up. But even then, he's never wondered if his granddaddy was gone for 12 hours. 12 hours. Jeez. And we thought that because Trump doesn't look good. You know what I mean? He just finally looked like he act like. You know what I mean? Like if somebody listed everything a person did next to everything that they ingested, you'd be like, that's not a person who's well. And finally, he doesn't, he just doesn't look like he's doing great. I didn't even know the term. He had some venous thing. Turns out that venous thing was his ankles. His ankles, I don't know if you've seen them. World leaders have seen them. World leaders have had to sit there and not look. In case you're not familiar, look, Trump's ankles are... No, his ankles just sitting there looking, caked up. I mean, he got some thickums under those socks. Trump's ankles have quite a bit of booty. I can't imagine what that must be like to be an aide in the White House and walking next to the president, taking orders from the president of the United States, but all you can hear is his ankles clapping. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, it is. It's like his ankles and then his hand. That hand. His hand is black. Like it's just... Imagine being Donald Trump and turning black. No one's more upset than him. No, that's bad. That is tough. He's over here trying to live, and if you just don't have something on the schedule, people assume. It's funny too because I go back and forth with friends. I have friends that are sort of across the political spectrum. I have these friends who, whether they tell me or not, I know that they voted for Trump. At least one of them, pretty sure, voted for him 3 times. You know? Every time he could, he did. And so we'll go back and forth all the time. You know, we'll mostly be arguing all the time. And we argue about a bunch of things that aren't Trump as well. Like sometimes we'll just argue about like whole social issues, whole different policies and everything. And maybe it's because I've known him longer than Trump has been president that I feel like having those arguments is, to me, worth it. You know, I don't ask anybody else to do everything that I'm doing, but I think that there is something to get to the bottom of, and it's what we are gonna do when he's gone. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that right now it's easy to put everything that's happening and how we feel about each other on one person, because it's sort of the catalyst for all this stuff. But the groundwork was being laid long before he ever became president. And so whenever he's gone, you know, we're all gonna have to figure out a way to relate to each other. Because it's not as if all of the problems begin and end with him. You know, he's just one of them. But I don't know. No idea. It's maybe. We don't know. It could be any day now. It could be 200 more years. Truly, like my grandma was in the nursing home before she passed, and I would go visit her and everything. My grandfather as well, at different times, they were in nursing homes, and when I go to visit them, you'd see people who had to be 3,000 years old. And it's like, I don't know, you know, you try to live a life that's full of love, and like you try to make memories and moments with family, with strangers. You want to have a full life. You want to have a life that you look back on and you're proud of the impact you had on people, you know? And along the way, try to maybe, I don't know, eat right when you can, but enjoy yourselves, you know? And drink sometimes, not too often. Maybe party a little bit when you're younger and it wean off of it as you get older, but do your best to have a really impactful life, even if you never become whatever it is, like rich, famous, popular. You're someone who, by being in other people's lives, their lives are richer. And same way that trees in the forest have roots that overlap, your life impacts other people's lives. You create ripple effects and create positive change in the world. And hopefully by doing all the right things, you have a good, long life. Or you could be the devil and probably live way longer, like way longer. So many of those people in that nursing home were very mean. They were so mean. I was like, man, life must run off hate fuel. How are you this old and mad you're alive too? Be sitting there, none keeps you alive longer than sitting in a rocking chair and not rocking. Imagine, you gotta really be a bad person to sit in a rocking chair, have the joy of rocking and not even want it. My friend said, you know, he went through a similar thing. He would go to the nursing home, visit his grandparents and stuff, and he said every day there was this old dude in a rocking chair, not rocking, sitting there, arms crossed in the chair. Everybody walked by. People would say hello to him. Finally, he was like, you know what? I say hello to this man when I pass him, and we never really have a conversation. He doesn't speak to me, and I don't take it personally because you never know what people are going through. You know, some people, you might think they're being rude, but maybe they have something going on. Maybe they have dementia a little bit, or maybe they're in their own head about something, trying to remember something, doing something. So he said, I'm gonna make a point the next time I go there to have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? Because that's the one thing he said he never saw anybody do. And so next time he went to visit his grandpa, on the way out, he walked up to him and he was like, hi, how you doing? The man said, I'm alive. And it's like, well, I hope you're having a good day. He's like, why would it be a good day? And, well, you know, it's nice outside and everything, sun shining. You're in a rocking chair. And he was like, I'm in a rocking chair. I don't like this rocking chair. I just sit in it so nobody else cares. It's easy to put everything in the way that we are now and all narratives and all discourse on just one person. It's easy to do that, especially when that person looks like they're driving all of it, right? But the ground was laid for this person long before they came into any sort of political picture. You know what I mean? Like for a long time, people have felt like there was nobody who was looking out for them. For a long time, people felt like it would take somebody who could not be bought by Washington or Wall Street's special interest money, or couldn't be twisted in whichever direction by lobbyists, or was looking out for people because they weren't motivated by money, and they weren't motivated by the promise of getting rich, and the thing that we came to believe as a country almost. You saw this way before Trump ever entered the political pictures, that if someone was at least independently wealthy, maybe they wouldn't be swayed by the money. You know what I mean? And there were those people across political spectrum that felt like there was no one looking out for them, that slowly everything that was their quality of life and everything that they earned was eroding away piece by piece, right? And that they just needed someone to step up who would stand in the way of all that and wouldn't be swayed by it. And unfortunately, that person never showed up. But and so I have these arguments with my friend, and there was one point where I'm going back and forth for a while because I felt like for everything that he said, I was saying something that was a reason why he shouldn't trust Trump on it, or why I didn't think it was something that was going to happen, you know? And finally he goes, well, you know, he's a businessman. And I had heard this before, and he said he's a businessman. And I was like, oh, he's a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman, though. No, like he is a businessman. He is a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. You said he's a businessman, and so he's a businessman. You told me he's a businessman. I've heard this before. He's a businessman. I'm just making sure that I understand what you're saying. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. So even you didn't say good businessman. You said, You said, as in he's one, as in, yes, he does business. It's a businessman. Yeah. He's a businessman. He is a businessman that bankrupted a casino. You know casinos. You know those things you don't generally leave money with. He bankrupted a casino. He's a businessman. He bankrupted a casino. A casino, though. He's a businessman. It's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. And look, I'm not a businessman. And I don't own a casino. In fact, whenever I go to a casino, I don't even gamble. I just do the show. I've done some shows at casinos. And then, I do the show, and then I go back to my room. I leave. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of running a casino. I hardly know what it's like to really, enjoy yourself at a casino, walking through and playing games and stuff. I've walked with other people as they've wanted to gamble and stuff like that. I've been awkwardly standing there, but I don't know what it takes to run a casino. And maybe this casino, look, maybe I'm throwing this out there as an olive branch. One of many I'll extend. Maybe this casino, this one, maybe had those slot machines that really give you credit for how hard you pull them. You know what I mean? You pull that slot machine as hard as you can, and the slot machine is like, okay, Daddy. Nah, I gotta get you a little something for that. No, I don't know, but he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Maybe I'm throwing it out there that at this casino they had, working for the casino, blackjack dealers that were as bad at blackjack as me. Maybe. The dealer, you'd be at his table, and he was like, you said hit? You sure? Okay. And you win again. All right, wonderful. I don't know. He probably knows because he's a businessman. Maybe this was one of the only casinos in all of America, maybe in all of the world, the only casino with clocks. Who knows? Maybe just over the poker table was a clock, and people were like, 9 already? I should go home. I've been here for quite a while. I don't know, but I'm sure he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. A businessman. And look, it's a casino. I can't think of a better... People come and drop off their money and leave. I can't think... I am not a businessman, but I can't think of a better business to make money. You can't even have casinos everywhere. But, this is my thing. A part of me does understand how someone could think all we need to do is get a businessman in there to fix everything, because I think that America runs so much like a business, even in the parts that it shouldn't, that obviously we're going to think everything translates to business. I didn't, this was where I was naive, I'll tell you right now. I thought that even if there was no national pride or community, or even if we couldn't find some sort of camaraderie as Americans, we at least, at our very core, loved money enough. I thought we loved money more than anyone loved him. I thought as soon as somebody messed with the money, we would all come to our senses and be like, yo, not the money. That's the only thing holding this together. But then you see there are people whose lives have already been ruined. Because of his policies, you could lay all the blame at his feet, and they're like, I'll figure something else out. You'll figure something else out. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. Especially when, like, what? 12 months ago, you were screaming about eggs. And now your business is in shambles. And you're like, who can say? That felt insane. But also, I think that if you look at America as a business, it would make sense that you would want a businessman in there. But the thing is, you can't run the country the way you run a business. You know, a company, if they are in dire straits, could lay off half their work staff and then try to keep things going, use that to stay afloat. A company can buy back its own stocks in an effort to enrich itself as a company, make those stocks worth more. A company has a fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders. A company technically does more for its shareholders than the government does for its people. And so I could see how people would be like, oh, we'd at least like to get that. That'd be nice, some dividends or equity, something. We'd at least like to feel solvent. No. But it just doesn't work that way. And I don't think it should. I think that a business now is very different than a business before. Like there's a thing that happened, and maybe it's only like my frame of reference because of age and everything, but I think that something happened in 2008 that we haven't recovered from still, which is that, like, for the first time ever, companies that truly screwed up beyond measure, like actually beyond measure, like they should have crashed everything. This is the type of stuff that you read in the textbook and then they, hung everybody. Like that's... We don't realize it, but that's the level of like nasty that it got in 2008. If you had, knocked off a couple 100 years and put it in France, there would have been a guillotine. You know what I mean? And instead, there was a bailout, but instead of a bailout of the people, it was a bailout of the companies, because we believe in business so much. We believe that everything works like a business to the point where even the politicians, naively, maybe some of them sincerely, were sure that if we keep the business afloat, it'll keep the people afloat, because then people won't lose their jobs, and then people will still be able to get these services, and people will still buy these products, right? And what ended up happening is that, so many people were foreclosed on, so many people lost their jobs anyway, people's like 401ks and retirements were destroyed, and then the people that they gave the bailout to sort of, trickle down the economics, something got stopped up right at the top. And so people who had wrecked the economy beyond measure got a bonus. They got a bonus for wrecking usually when you break something. And ever since then, it feels like business is about not being left holding the bag. That's what real business seems to be now, is that you do everything you can to extract as much value as possible, and then you dip before everything comes crashing down, whether you dip because you sell the company or you dip because, you decide to shutter it after you've like fired everyone and ruined it as a service and everything. Basically private equity, right? So I believe he's a businessman. I do, because I'm sure, look, if we're talking business, to his credit, I'm sure that he was not worse off for bankrupting that casino. I'm sure it was the people that worked at the casino. I'm sure he stiffed some of the contractors who helped build the casino, but I'm sure that he found a way to leverage that debt because he loves debt. He found a way to leverage that debt into his next venture, and then he started selling steaks or whatever. I don't know. Like, it was just, it's been a lot of products. You know what else it is too, is that you can't focus too much on this one person. It makes him more important than he really is. I understand that he's president. I understand he's one of the richest people in the world. But as far as importance, it's about what lasts, you know? This dude, no wonder we thought he was gone. He went on Fox News. No wonder we thought he was gone. Trump went on Fox News. Everybody forget this. Trump went on Fox News and just started randomly. No one asked him. Randomly talking about how he was trying to get into heaven. And it's like, then you know. One thing my buddy's granddaddy never does is talk about the afterlife. Gets up, watches his shows, takes his naps, gets up and eats, and repeats. If he was pontificating on heaven, I think people would just start assuming that every nap really was the last nap. It's because, a man's hand. Guys, he's turning black. But I don't, look, I truly talk about Trump because he's in the news, but I don't really care about Trump. I care about people. What's going on with people? All of this is going to outlast this one person, And even in California, you see in California, where there was one case, it seems contained and already treated and everything, but it is happening. One case of plague. You know plague. You know plague. Plague. Some would ask which plague. Apparently, the. You know plague from the producers of the Middle Ages. Plague. You know plague. Don't act like you don't know plague. You know plague. It's plague. The reason Europe's not bigger. Plague. You know plague. And no matter how much you may hate Trump, you gotta admit, this is some pretty bad luck. He 2 for 2 on presidential terms and plagues. That's crazy. That was wild. Yeah, first one a fluke. The second one, how did a plague skip Biden's era? Like, that's. Plague. Because that's the fear, is that, like, yes, they found one case, they treated it, they've even traced it back to a particular source, because it's really a climate change issue, because basically the fleas that carry plague are thriving right now in the warmer climate, and so then they're hopping on more rats, and then the rats might come in contact with people, right? And so there's always the fear, the possibility that it isn't just that one case, and it isn't just contained to California. There's a real fear and a possibility that plague could have spread to the president's hand. It's possible. Because what we did and how do I put this? What we've done in the U.S. as far as presidents is it's not exactly like we're picking young ones. You know what I mean? Whatever you do, whatever that thing is, whether it's law, is military, or it's business, we seem to want you to have a wealth of experience in that field. Because there's going to be 3 branches of the government, and you may not be familiar with all of them. Even if you're a career politician, you may not know how to like wade perfectly through all of them. But, you know, if you have a lot of experience in one thing, that could win you the trust of the people. And we haven't had a young president in a long time. I mean, like, Kennedy was one, like, young ones, like a young guy being president. And we haven't really done that again. Like, you know, what we've done is we've let confidence and swag make up for youth. If you are the president and you present yourself in a way that makes us feel good, we will turn that back over to you in the sort of social capital that youth usually carries, right? Because we want you to have experience, but at a certain point, we have to be realistic, right? Like, Bill Clinton wasn't young, but he had a saxophone. We had a saxophone, so we defended him. We were like, that shows lung capacity. Have you heard him play, though? And then you had George W. Bush. Look, George Bush wasn't young, but he... I don't know, he just had like a childlike wonder to his... You could always tell when he was addressing the nation and he had also just learned a new word. Bush would be up there like, terror. Did I do it good? And then you had Barack Obama. And Barack Obama was younger than some of the people who have been president, you know, before and since, but he wasn't a baby. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't incredibly young, but he had that exact thing I'm talking about. He had an energy that was like a mobilization behind him, and he had like some measure of charisma that made up for any youth he might have been lacking. You know, I remember when Barack Obama sang that Al Green. That was incredibly uncomfortable. No, because when it happened, I was at a get together with a bunch of aunties going, "Oh, Barack." I'm like, no. No, I'm trying to have my dinner right now. What you doing? Can't eat meatloaf in these conditions. And then you went from Obama to Trump, and Trump had that energy. He had people behind him, and he came off youthful because he was like a schoolyard bully. Anytime somebody said something, any interview that went awry, he was ready, nickname, anything. He was just coming at you all the time. It's like he fed off of it. It was his favorite thing to fight with the media and get people riled up. That feels like youthful energy. That feels like it's going to be here forever, you know? And then we went from Trump to Biden, who, to be fair, told us he was going to be old. I've talked about this before. We were coming at Biden. We asked Biden, and Biden was like, "Are you sure?" I got a Werther's in my mouth right now. I'll do it if you want me to do it, but my car does smell like potpourri, so. I'll do it. If y'all want me to do it, I'll do it. For real. If y'all like, no. Like if I'm the only one that can stop them, if I need to do it, I'll do it. But just know, when I shake world leaders' hands at the G7, G20, whatever, my hand will pop a lot. Whole handshake. It's gonna sound like Orville Redenbacher. But if y'all insist. And then we got Trump again after Biden, and this feels very different. You go back and watch a rally of Trump from 2016, 2017, and then you watch a press conference now, very different. It's very, very different. I mean, it seems like he's dying. Like it's because look, I'm not. It's not lost on me that to be an American, to live in the U.S., you have to become, or at least have an understanding of what you need to do to be a semi-good capitalist, right? And there are people that ask the question, how can you fight for a more equitable world while you're living in a system that is corrupt? And I look at it the way I look at when I travel and I meet people who live in the country, but they don't speak the language, right? Like your native language is compassion and charity. You weren't made specifically to speak the language of margin calls and derivatives, dividends and everything. That's a language you can learn to get by because you live here, but it's not a language you were born with. When your parents are raising you, or when you have fond memories of being a kid, they all come from things much deeper than money. And then as you get older, you clearly need money to get by. That's no crime. Like, you have to function as a society. So you learn how to move with money as best as possible, but you can get distracted. It can take you to a place that makes it hard to remember your humanity. You know what I mean? Like some people look at anyone who has succeeded in business as someone who must have earned it, but that's not how all business works. You know what I mean? Like if I own a house and I set it on fire and I run out of the house, am I a genius or did I just have an insurance policy? Maybe both, but maybe I'm a crook. You know? Like only solvency that you have to contend with is your soul. You know what I mean? The solvency is defined by a company's ability to pay its long-term debts, right? If a company's not solvent, you have no trust in that company, and you probably shouldn't invest in that company. And as long as we're keeping it to financial terms, a soul works in a similar way. Depending on your belief system, depends on if your solvency, your long-term debt is to God or family, your community or a cause. But like, you can tell the difference between a religion and a cult by how they measure those solvencies. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that every major religion doesn't have its blemishes. It has people, so it's going to have plenty of mistakes in its history. But, a religion that only speaks to what is deeper about you and what is in you and what happens outside of all of this is probably worth looking into, worth reading about. And anything that brings it all the way down to the material good is probably a cult. You know what I mean? Just because a cult usually wants your money. They start off pretty good. A cult usually starts off with like a great party or something. And then like, I don't know, in about 3 weeks, they're like, hey, how much do you make? You know, dividends work the same way. Dividends get paid out. Companies will pay dividends to their investors, and those dividends go to shareholders. They go to investors, and if you have ever been the beneficiary of someone's kindness or goodwill, then you have dividends to pay throughout your life, you know? And I don't know if that can be understood if you only understand business. You know? Country isn't a business. It just isn't. You know what I mean? Like, but who knows? He's a businessman. Like, maybe he's Trump is a businessman the way JFK Jr. was a pilot. You know what I mean? Oh, all right. No, you should groan. You're on the plane.
Please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
I feel very thankful to be here with all of you because it's nice to talk to people who are gonna get it in a way. I feel like sometimes when I'm traveling and I go to places where, especially when I go overseas, and there are places that are not as engaged or involved with American politics, that there's a sentiment of like we're just watching the show and y'all are like cast in the show, and so that it's very different to have a chat with you. Because I'll be very honest with you, it's been taking me a long time to distill the way I feel about what is happening in LA. Because what's happening in LA over the past couple weeks is it's insane to watch, because I have plenty of friends in LA and I talk to them daily and everything, and I also watch the news, and not maybe since COVID have I seen such distant realities. Do you know what I mean? Like such completely opposite ends of the spectrum, what is happening and what is said about what's happening. And okay, because if you're watching the news, everyone in LA is dead. They've been dead for a while. The military came, but they were too late. Everyone is, in fact, I think the military dead too. Like, it's really just a black hole of death that no one can stop, but somehow the reporters are reporting. And it is strange, because when they send the reporter out to cover what some people are even calling the riots in LA, the reporter, not every single one of them, I'll get to them, but the reporter is standing there while everybody else is standing there. And they're giving a very different report than what we can see behind them. A lot of people don't know this about me, but from the time that I was a child, because I grew up in Louisiana, my family and all the families around me were all affected by Hurricane Katrina. So I have very, very strong feelings about protecting journalists, protecting reporters, and not putting them out there with the weather. Because we see it. We see the weather, and I believe you every time. Whenever you say it's a hurricane, and I look outside, I'm like, that look hurricane-like. I don't then need you to send our local newscaster to hold on to a telephone pole while he tells us how bad it is. The way that these people will almost be horizontal reporting on the wind speed, it's like we don't need them as a visual test of what is happening right now. Everyone watching is inside. There's no one watching from outside like, seems like I should probably move from where I am now. No, I hate that. I hate when it's like weather is one of those things where I'm like, I don't know what the spin could be. Like to a certain degree, I understand when a journalist, when a newscaster feels the need to go. What this shows right now is how many of y'all don't put your phone on silent. Like there's no... No, I know it is. I know it is. That's crazy. Well then I will be quick then. Yeah. Okay, real quick. Just for a quick second. What flash flood? Oh no, the parade. Y'all. Don't do that. It's his birthday. It's not my birthday. But a great example, like a flash flood, and they'll put the newscaster in the water, and it's like, well, what we can see here, John, is... It's another level of insane, because when it comes to the news and the weather, I don't know what the spin could be. There's a storm outside. No, it's not. Weather, as long as you're not talking about specifically climate change, is like the last bipartisan subject. It's like the last thing. There's no way that anyone hates, conservatives or liberals enough to see the rain and be like, but it's not. Like, that just doesn't happen. It's one of the last tethers to reality, and we make those newscasters go in it. These poor newscasters in Arizona look like they about to pass out. Half the reports they do talking about the heat. They got them over there, no shade. You can tell the budget of a newsroom by how they send the journalists out there, because sometimes they'll be out there and like, blistering heat today in downtown Phoenix, temperatures reaching 111 degrees. Like, stop doing it, you know? If it's hot, we can feel it, and when you tell us, we'll believe you, you know? If it's a hurricane, this is one of the things that I have tried my best to be fair with, because you see people, and I really feel like this only happens here. There's no other country I know of where people proudly go out into the hurricane and like tap dance in the hurricane to show the rain that they're not scared. That's a distinctly American male thing to do, to be like, hey, ain't nobody scared of some water? Come and get me, and they're never seen again. I'm just saying, you don't really see that anywhere else. And I used to think that those were like the dumbest people in the world. But then as I got older, I was like, you know what? Maybe they just watched the news. And they were like, he's standing out there. And he telling me not to go outside. It's too dangerous, but he outside. What, he think I'm a punk? If he can be outside, I'll be outside. I'll be outside all I want. And then they go outside and then they're never seen again. But the thing with people covering LA and standing in front of whether it's LAPD or National Guard lined up and protesters a distance away lined up, it's a very different thing, because now they're coloring it for you, but you can see behind them. And it's hard to know what to make of it. Because when I talk to my friends in LA, they're like, you know, very chill. They're always chill, but like they're very chill in this specific instance. I called some of my friends because I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not better than anybody. I fell for some of like the propaganda that was going on. I called some of my friends immediately because I don't know LA neighborhoods that well. And I live in New York, where if something is happening, it is happening to everyone. Thoroughly happening to everyone right now. You know? And so... Okay, I'm digressing for a second, but just as an example, one time there was all I can describe it as is like a tiny tornado of trash. It literally was not taller than this mic stand, but it was spinning, because it was a windy day out, and the trash wanted to be together, I guess. And so the trash spinning, and it's like, I don't know, I grew up like, you know, Deep South and everything, so whenever I see one of those, I'm like, ooh, that's a bad spirit. Like, that's I get real superstitious real quick. If you a tiny tornado, if you an eye-level tornado, I don't come near you, all right? That's a bad spirit. You got Dorito bags in you and everything. You got all types of disgusting stuff. No, I might get possessed. And so I was keeping my distance, but there were other people walking down the street. I actually crossed the street because I saw it up ahead. I was like, nah, I don't need those problems. Like, I like having my whole body, mind, and soul. I don't want some of it to be like Derek from 81st. You know what I mean? Like, that feel like who would possess you? Just somebody who like never had a job and burps as loud as possible. And so I crossed the street, but there were other people that were walking next to me that kept going, and they walked right into it. And even though I was across the street, I knew when they walked into it because my back was turned, and I still heard... I'm like, not walking into a Thai tornado with your mouth open. That's just irresponsible. And sure enough, that tiny tornado got like 8 people. Just being itself. Well, if something happens in New York, it's happening to everybody. If one train is down, the city stops. We get around it, you know. People get mad, they get off the train, they run to work, they you know, hop on a bike or whatever, they take a cab. But like, one thing happens, it has a ripple effect. LA doesn't seem like that to me. Like I've been in different parts of LA, and I thought all of it was like one thing. I couldn't have been more wrong. And so I was calling my friends as I was freaking out because I was seeing the stuff that was happening. Waymos, you know the driverless car that shouldn't exist? You know that thing that's just on the road and we all act like it's normal, but we're slowly acting out the plot of iRobot currently? You know that thing? Those were on fire. There were Waymos on fire. So I called my friends like, you not in a Waymo, are you? Oh, if you in a Waymo, get out right now. Because to be fair, we didn't really even know why the Waymos were on fire. Maybe there were people setting the Waymos on fire, but maybe the Waymos saw all the unrest and they were like, this is our time. One time I was with my friend in San Francisco, and a Waymo passed by, and he was admittedly very high. But he doesn't trust Waymos because the first time he ever took a Waymo was by accident, because he lost his wallet, his phone, like he got all his stuff stolen, right? And so he asked a friend to get him a ride home, okay? So he gets the friend to get him a ride home. He doesn't know that friend used the app Waymo instead of like Uber or whatever. So then he's high in the story too. He's actually high all the time, but he gets into the car and he's like, you know, a little fade, a little drunk, a little high. And then he gets in the car and then the car takes off. And so the way he told the story, I wasn't there. The way he told the story is finally he asked, you know, for a little music. He's like, dang, it's quiet in here, dog. Can you turn something on? And he half nodding off anyway, but he's like, can you turn something on? It's quiet in here, dog. Like, let's get it popping, you know. Can I get some? It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you like, dog. Anything. Yo, I know you hear me talking to you. And then he said he leaned forward. This is how he tells the story. He leaned forward and saw nobody was in there, and then he started praying. Because he was like, no, you know what? You know what? You know what, Lord? You know I haven't been right. I haven't been right. And if you see me through this, I swear I'm going to change my ways. If you see me through this right now, if you deliver me through, I'm going to leave the alcohol alone. I'm going to leave the weed. He gets home, he sees his house, he's like, thank you, Lord, thank you. And obviously he was lying because he was high when he was next to me. But a Waymo passed by and he was like, that thing right there, nobody gonna believe me when I tell you, but that thing right there, I don't trust those things, all right? Let me tell you something right now. That thing over there, all AI, all self-driving, intelligence stuff, don't trust that thing. Believe me, that's a transformer. Look, all I'm saying, if I wanted to act out the plot of one of the Transformer movies, what would I do? I come down to earth as a bunch of driverless cars, keep it easy for a little while, and then one day, boom, 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 boom. Don't get in there. Don't get in one of them. You're going to end up in its chest. I'm telling you right now. And so I called so many of my friends. I was like, hey, are you okay? Are you good? And they were like, yeah, no, I'm fine. And they said they were fine with the annoyance of like, they said that they were fine with the annoyance that I have when my mom calls me to ask me if I'm okay. She saw that there was a storm in New York, and I'm like, no, it was just a bunch of trash spinning in a circle. It's not that serious. You worry too much. No, they were genuinely like, no, that's actually here. And they started explaining LA neighborhoods to me, and I'm not gonna lie, I glazed over. Like, I just... But once I knew that they were safe and that everyone I knew was safe, I was like, well, then where is this happening? I know a lot of people in LA. I've called a lot of people. Everybody is fine. Where is this happening? It turns out it's all happening over like, I think 2 square blocks. I don't even know. It's like, it's such a small area. It might as well be a movie set. And it's crazy because if you listen to, Fox News, some of these outlets, you would think that the entire city was burning right now. There are people sharing stories on Facebook, and the entire place is devastated. And the president said, if I didn't send the National Guard, they'd be in shambles right now. But then when you look at video, and I'm not talking about video from protesters, I'm not talking about video of bystanders of the protest. I'm talking about video of people in Los Angeles 2 blocks away from the protest. There are people literally blowing bubbles. And there is no opposite to your city being on fire than bubbles. Bubbles are like a truly first world problem. Like, and they weren't even blowing bubbles regular. They were over here like, once you do it with your foot in the air, that's too much whimsy for your city to be on fire. Not blowing bubbles like, blah, blah, blah. Look at that. That's so cool. I'm talking about, And it is difficult when it's presented in front of you so heavily, an agenda with reporting versus just saying what happened. I didn't even know you could do that, by the way. It wasn't until I left the country and watched the news in other countries that you can just say what happened. Like when you watch the news in Spain, they don't even put a spin on it. They're just like, yeah, right there. They don't even try. This is what's crazy, is that the news around the world, they don't even try to be entertaining. They give it to you so straight, they don't even have good voices half the time. Sometimes there's a guy being like, yes, 2 people were found in the basement, and they said that they were trapped there by the man who lived there. Very dry, nothing. They're not putting on 2 people found dead. Like, it's... That's my favorite, by the way. I love when an anchor is like going out of a fun story to a sad story, but either they didn't get the stack of reports ahead of time, or they're just reading the prompter in real time, so they don't know that they need to do the tone shift. And so they just finished like promoting a shelter that has saved like 67 puppies or something. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that sweet? I mean, you just love to see stuff like that, don't you? Anyway, 15 burned to death in a fire. Oh. And then you see in their eyes that they're like, I already started high. I started up here if I drop it. Now, and sometimes they try to drop it. They're like, found dead this morning. Don't act like you weren't talking the whole time. That was you the whole time. But you even see it in LA, because the misconception people have is that the thing that initially happened in LA versus like protesters and ICE and everything was like all over LA, was just all happening at one time, when actually it's around these very few square blocks. That's where all of it's like going down. You know, I'm not saying there weren't protests in other places, but those protests went on without incident. It's here. This is like the main sticking point.
And this is what they keep shooting footage of over and over and over again and showing you over and over and over again from different angles, right? And they're so thirsty for it that there was one dude that had a Mexican flag, was on a smashed up car, and you can see when you look at the picture that there are like 15 cameras surrounding the car looking up at him, and then everyone protesting is like a block down with nobody there. You know, because they're selling you a story. They're selling you a story about chaos that's unfolding and everything. And they even, you know, will have the newscaster out there. This journalist is out there. And I have a lot of respect for journalists. They do an incredibly difficult job, and they have to do it under constraints that some of us can't understand. Because if you worked your entire life to try to get to the truth, and then you finally get a job, maybe it's not even a well-paying job, and you're allowed to tell the truth until like your newspaper gets bought. And then it gets bought by a guy that's like, the truth though. I mean, what is truth really? Just say whatever I tell you to say. But it is a difficult thing to distill for yourself, because you have to. You can't just, I'm not saying that there was ever some golden age where all of media was honest and forthright. I'm just saying that it used to be a little bit more simple. That you were even overdoing it if you checked, you know, 3 sources to see if something was true. Because there are things that used to be delivered with a little bit less. You still had the bias of the outlet, but it was a little less political at all times, and there was a little less looking for the bleed. Here's what happened, and I said it in a sexy voice. That used to be American news. You know? And now we've slowly become this more and more and more like corporate warped version of trying to do the news. News became entertainment. It became a show. And you know there's a show, you know it's entertainment, because they're not delivering you the news out of the kindness of their hearts. I'm not saying that the journalists that are doing the news aren't dedicated. I'm saying that the body, the system and the machine that we look to for reporting is just, they're trying to sell razors in between every disaster. Like, that should tell you something, you know? Because you see the report, and you see people, chaos in the streets in LA. Look at everything that's happening. And then you like talk to someone who's in LA, or you even just look at an Instagram story that your friend made on a random day who's not that far from the protest. And you're like, I don't know, they are loading up their car with Trader Joe's. Like, that doesn't feel apocalyptic at all. Like, if you can get the sliced mango from Trader Joe's, I think the supply chain is intact. That's one of the first things to go. We don't even have mangoes like that. Oh, news says absolute chaos. And then you look at somebody's, just like legit, somebody's like TikTok that they're making. Not even about the protest, just that they're making. And you know they live in LA. And while they're making this protest, while supposedly the city is on fire, they're finding parking. That's not supposed to happen ever. And one thing that can't be lost on us when we think about or talk about Donald Trump is the only thing that he's ever been successful in is reality TV. We don't know him from the steaks. We don't know him from the casinos. We don't know him from the vodka or the water, which was probably vodka. We don't know him from anything except truly reality TV. Even in real estate, it's like, okay, it's like a name, but I don't know anyone who ever lived on one of those properties. You know, it's the TV. He figured it out. He figured out reality TV, and he's still doing reality TV. He's just doing it as the president. The mix of reality and TV is a different cocktail for every show. You know, there are shows that are 10% reality and 90% TV, where if you took away the TV element, none of these things would happen. These people wouldn't know each other. And then there's some that are 50-50. Like, I feel like Love Island is 50-50. You know what I mean? Love Island to me is because look, even if there was no show, these are the people who would be hooking up with these people. Like this is every time you watch a cast introduced of Love Island, you're like, that seems right. Like that's who everyone goes for that's in that group anyway. They all seem happy. There's never like a guy in Love Island that's like, so ladies. Just floating like an NPC. Like, it's always somebody with like 9 abs. And you're like, how do you get the extra? When he's standing up, when he's sitting down, it's very defined. You know, it's shows that are even mostly reality with a little hint of TV, just a little bit of producing to make sure it's polished enough for the people so that they can consume it and not be thinking about how they're on like a 5th episode of it, you know? And that's where Trump comes from. He comes from reality TV. It's the only thing that he's ever been really, really good at making. And that's what he's doing right now, reality TV instead of governing. Because if he were governing and he really wanted to be smart about it, this dude would do what he does best. He'd just lie. Think about this. This man lies about everything. And this immigration thing is the only thing he's like actually tried to do. It's very weird. Like, I just, it's a long walk, but stick with me for a second. As presidents go, most deportations have been going down. They were, I think, at least in recent memory, they were the last highest under Obama, but Obama did them all through the courts and everything. It wasn't just like a rounding up type of thing. And so then Biden had less, Trump even had less in his first term than Obama. And then now, Trump, right now, even with the show, has less than he had the first time. And it's weird to me because in the campaign, we were promised that there were millions. There were millions of illegal immigrant criminals. They were behind you. Have you checked your pants? They're in there too. They're under your bed. They're everywhere. You can't throw a constitution without hitting an illegal criminal alien. We were told that there were millions of them in the country. Yet somehow, when ICE really starts ramping up, because we're really doing this thing, it takes like a week before they were like, have you tried a school? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I can't find any. That's crazy. We got a couple that first week, but yeah, I guess there were only like 3,500 or whatever. I guess we're just gonna have to start going everywhere, and that's what they did. That's why it is the way it is, because ICE is over here trying to do these deportations, trying to grab people and everything, but I thought there were millions of illegal criminal aliens. Why are you finding them all at work? Like, I just had no idea that my local taco spot was specifically MS-13 tacos. I had no idea that Tra de la Ringa, the gang I can't pronounce, I had no idea that that's who was like folding the clothes at Kohl's. Like, that's, because that's what you've been led to believe. Every arrest is warranted. ICE is trying to do their job. All of this mandated makes sense. That's what you've been told. And the thing is, you need to make a show out of it, because even with all the chaos, even with all the footage, it's still less. That's crazy. Even with you going around the court, it's less. That's wild that it's still less, even with all of this show going on. Because what isn't a show, what's actually reality is that people are being ripped away from their families. And these are hardworking people. These are people that have been here for a long time. These are a lot of people who are actually trying to do the right thing as hard as they possibly can. But the system is slow and it's imperfect. And then they get arrested by ICE at the courthouse for their hearing. And all of this when Trump could have just lied. He could have just been like, yeah, I did it. Who would say he didn't? All of his fans would be like, he did it. He said he was going to do it, and he did. I don't even know when he did. That was so fast. Damn. Even Democrats would be like, yay, you did it. At least. The one time he doesn't lie. And so you have this ICE operation happening on these square blocks, these protesters clashing with ICE. ICE doesn't feel safe. They don't feel like they can make movements and everything. And so then, the LAPD comes. And maybe the LAPD was there the entire time. I don't know. But the LAPD is there. And Trump sends in the National Guard. Now, he can't send in the National Guard just to, arrest people and, crack skulls and everything like that. So what he does, he tries to get around it by deploying the National Guard just to protect these two buildings. But then they're there in case ICE feels like they need their help detaining someone or that they aren't able to carry out their operations, right? So, dangerous precedent, but whatever. So then Trump wants to send in the National Guard, which everybody, not every single person, but most people were upset about because the LAPD, in case you're not aware from TV, from movies, or just from history, historically loves to whoop ass. That is their favorite thing. The LAPD can't stop whooping ass. They love, it's their number one. And so when the LAPD found out the National Guard was coming, I know they were probably like, but I didn't even get to. No, go ahead, send him. Yeah. No, you know what's best, send him in. No, you wanna do it. And then the National Guard comes, and there's not a ton for them to do, because it's like 2 square blocks. No matter how many times they keep showing you the same footage over and over and over again of these things burning, of this 3 stores that got looted. They show you the same thing over and over, but it's just not happening that way. And it's not that spread out. People are finding parking in Los Angeles. And so the National Guard gets there, and they're like, all right, yeah, okay. All right, so there's nothing to do, and you deployed us without making sure we had a place to sleep. So then they're all on the floor. They're sleeping on the concrete with nothing to do, and everybody's mad now because National Guard isn't getting paid what the LAPD is getting paid, so now the LAPD can't whoop ass. National Guard here for no reason. And then Trump is like, send the Marines then. I know if you're in the LAPD, you're like, the Marines? National Guard had to be like, the Marines? Even the Marines had to be like, the Marines? And then LAPD just sitting there like, I just want... Is whooping a little ass too much to ask? But I know that it's very, very, very important to understand what's reality and what's TV, and not to confuse the two. And the way to combat reality TV being everywhere all the time is real connection with real people. I was able to call people or text people who were in LA that told me, no, I mean, there was parking at Trader Joe's. Everything actually pretty chill. And without that, I might honestly be like, I don't know, y'all. There were 3 Waymos on fire. I took it as a lesson. And I would hope that more people see the things that were happening in LA and make sure that outside of any news outlet you follow, outside of like any narrative that you make the choice to believe, because there are so many varying narratives for every event that you do have to make choices, that above all of those things, you will talk to people. Because talking to people is the real perspective that you need. When you talk to someone who's really going through the thing, no matter what it is, no matter what it is, even bigger than LA, even bigger than the protests, when you talk to someone, you finally get from their perspective right to the root of an issue, as opposed to whoever's talking over them. Oh, and I think that for me, talking to my friends, making sure that they were safe, let me know that this thing was not what it was being made out to be. Don't get me wrong. I think that something was starting in LA, and I think that thing is scary. I think that there's a push to make authoritarian moves and to see how far things can be bent and how much people can be pushed and pulled before they'll do anything about it. And I think that LA was a perfect test for that. Let's take something that's really just 2 blocks and let's make it look like it's the entire city, and we'll see if they believe us. Let's send in all the cops we have, then the National Guard, then the Marines, and see how much people want that, if they go for it or not. So something is happening, and I would encourage every single one of you to hold on to everyone that you know. DC is one of those places where everybody is from everywhere and everyone knows everyone everywhere else. And if you keep that type of global community together, you'll have no problem, in my opinion at least, distinguishing what's happening from what's not. Because you'll have people that you can talk to, people that are really going through the thing in real time. I'm not saying don't watch the news at all. Sometimes they have newscasters on there who they put in the hurricane. It's very entertaining. Yo, DC, y'all been fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all.
When I